Hi, I'm Marty Cohn, representing Rotary International. Today, we're going to talk about the Bear Project at Pine Ridge Indian Reservation with two of its founders, Tiny Decory and Doni Decory. About 14 years ago, I learned about the work of these two wonderful people and have been inspired not only by their vision, but also their deep commitment to improve the lives of residents, particularly youth, on the reservation. My
Thank you.
first question is, what inspired you to create the Bear Project?
What inspired us? Well, it was years ago. At the time, I was a college instructor for Ogallala Lakota College in the early childhood department, and Donnie was director for a program called Youth Opportunity. And I being in early childhood, and she just in education, we found out that we had a lot of our young people that were not reading on grade level, and that they were getting socially promoted. And by the time they got into high school, they couldn't read, so eventually they dropped out. So the dropout rate was extremely high. So that was one of the reasons.
Yep, and then we just kind of wanted to make it fun. We wanted to get them excited about reading, but we wanted to do it fun, so we used theater and self-esteem building and just fun, innovative ways to get them to read.
We had to encourage the parents and build that trust, because that's really important when you're working with families, is to build the trust. And that took us a while, but we got it. And before we thought about it, we wanted to know where those kids were. Where did they go? They had to be around here someplace, because you start out with 150 freshmen and you end up graduating maybe 60 of those 150. So where's the rest? So with the program that she had back in those days, we went out, we got a team of people, and we went out and found those kids. We looked for them. We looked every place. And then we had a conversation, and the majority of it was, I couldn't read. I didn't know how to read, and it was embarrassing, and I just couldn't pull my weight. So we that's
Yeah. And then, just to kind of close that question, the one thing that we wanted to do too is we wanted to get our kids to read and take them on journeys around the world that they may have otherwise not be able to take, or what may never take. And we wanted them to just kind of get to know things like the pyramids and
go around the world.
Yes.
In a book.
Yes.
Oh, it's great. So let me ask you though, why the name Bear Project? What does it represent?
Well, be excited about reading. There's a lot of programs around be excited about reading. And then later on, with our good friend John Willis, we said, hey, we're doing so much more in education besides just the reading part. So we went to be better education and reading. But we wanted to focus on reading, because that was the concern, is making sure that these kids could at least read and understand what they were reading.
So, I got to ask, so what's the biggest challenge that children face on the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation when it comes to reading and literacy?
I think one of the biggest challenges is that they're in survival mode. They're trying to survive every day, and some of them act as if they're adults and they have to function as adults. So learning to read and those types of things sometimes aren't a priority, which would be anywhere else, but here it's surviving. They don't sometimes our kids aren't going to school to get quote unquote an education. They're going because the school offers breakfast and lunch to eat. A air conditioned building or a heated building in the winter. The needs and whatnot are a little bit different than what we would say on the outside of the reservation sometimes.
And the fact that there's not enough room for them to find that corner, even that corner in their home, because they are overcrowded as it is. Families upon families upon families living in a household there. So that the homework and being able to pick up a book was and is not the priority.
So, all right. So this is probably going to be a real tough question for you guys, because can you share thinking about all the years and all the kids, can you share a success story of a child or family who was positively impacted by the program?
Okay, I'm going to go way back to when we first started. Okay.
Okay, go for it.
Because I always we had this lady who had come to the park because we had this big grand opening at the park, and we had the fire department there, and everybody was there. All the resources that we could gather with them on the reservation came to our grand opening, and she came and she was hesitant about joining the bear program. We had these little applications, join us, and just take a pledge. Be excited about reading was your number one pledge, and I promise to read to my child every day. I promise to do this. Okay. Well, these kids were saying, come on, mom. And she had probably 4 little ones, from a couple of months old up to like 5. And they was pushing her toward our table. And so she came and I knew the family. We both knew the family. And she says, Tiny, can I talk to you? I said, sure. So we got to the side and she said, I want to enroll my family so much, but I myself can't read. She said, I could do the basics. I could write my name. I tell you where I live, but I'm always taking my applications that I have to fill out I take them home so others can help me fill it out. So I said, you're the perfect candidate. So she joined. And before she would go to the hospital to get her kids' physicals, and they'll be sitting there and they'd be chewing on candy and fighting and whatnot. And then about 9 months after she had joined the bear program, and she was receiving sight words packets, and she was learning right along with her kids consonant blends and vowels and structure. And I walked into the hospital waiting room, and she was sitting there, and all her kids were around her on the floor, and every one of her kids had a book and they were reading. And then we realized that she needed glasses. So we helped get glasses.
Wonderful.
Well, now she has an education. She's out there in the workforce, and she's doing extremely well, and her kids are avid readers.
Great
So
story.
that's just one that always sticks in my mind.
It's a great story. Great story. All right, so let's shift for a second in terms of challenges. What do you think? What are the biggest obstacles you face? Is it funding, access to resources, something
Both.
else?
It's honestly, it's both. Funding is an issue, always an issue. Resources is an issue because, like I said, we travel 100 and some miles just to get groceries. That is financially feasible. And then you have like little programs that Walmart and different programs and places do, and communities are supposed to be eligible for it, and we're never eligible because we're quote unquote not in their community. And we don't have that. We don't have thrift stores. We don't have food banks. We don't have any of the resources that are a norm anywhere else. And then a lot of the resources and even jobs, we have kids and adults competing for the same jobs. And so
Grandparents competing for the jobs with their grandchildren.
yep. So it's always an issue, and even down to fundraising. I mean, how are you going to fundraise on the poorest reservation in the United States? We have bake sales and things like that and sell things, but you're looking at $100, or $200. Our kids struggle with just fundraising events here, even with the schools and their fundraising events. So
And even with our families that want to come out and help, and they do a lot of in kind
Yes.
for us. But I can't ask a family to take a dozen biscuits from their table to give to us so we can have a lunch sale or do that. So there's other ways. And believe it or not, we talk about resources. We're saying we lack resources, but on the reservation here, we are one of the main resources.
yes.
I mean,
Wow.
there are others that are doing other things, but people come to us for clothing, for food boxes. We have a daily snack program for the kids, and we give shoes. And if I look at a kid and see he has no shoes or no sneakers or pants to wear, we get them for him. So we are one of the biggest resources
Yes.
on the reservation.
All right, so let's shift now to What do you see, or how do you see the Bear program growing in the next, I was going to say 5 to 10 years, forget the 10. How do you see it growing in the next 5 years? What's your vision?
Oh, wow. I think it's going to be a time for us to really step up. And I mean, we've grown immensely these last few years, with help from from your organization and John Willis, a good friend of ours. He's been here. He's able to see, but the difference is able to feel what we feel while you're here on the reservation. Um, we I Donnie.
I think what we see in the next 5 years is a dream that we've had for 20 some years, 20 plus years, to have just a Bear campus that is ours to be able to do things for kids, is now it's a visible, reality. And the little things that everybody is doing and contributing is building that community. We have 2 houses to house kids in a safe haven. We're building a training center to be able to teach how to cook, where to hang out, you know, um, counseling room, a library. We're doing all of these things. We have a garden going for sustainability. We're giving out food because we're building it. All of these things are now becoming a reality, and we see it growing in that perspective little by little. Some of it has taken a lot, but now it's a reality. And regardless of what, we get to offer more. We're stronger resources for our own kids now.
We're sitting in one of the houses right now,
Yep.
and kids come through the houses. They stay here for days at a time until they transition into another program. But our job readiness, and life skills program, it has really taken off. And right now, it's kind of mellowing out a little bit, but we got to, get that oomph back into it, because it helps our kids. We teach them life skills. We teach them strategies, how to get through life, how to get through the daily activities where they believe they have nothing, and that they don't have no hope. We teach that to these kids through our leadership and our job readiness. The kids don't get paid a lot of money. And I always tell the kids, we can't pay you what you're worth, but we can give you everything that you need, all the love and whatever else you're going to need to be successful, going to school, and they get a little stipend. Donnie mentioned the gardens. I'm so excited. I almost cry when I talk about them, because it's our first food sovereignty. We hear about food sovereignty all over the world, and even the kids asked me this summer when they were planting, they did all the planting. They said, well, what really is sovereignty? So I said, well, go look it up. Go look it up. One kid came back and he took his fist and he pounded it into his hand. He said, it means we can do it ourselves. We can do it. And so we're sitting here when we're surrounded by gardens galore. The kids harvest after school. We got a young man out there taking care of watering the garden. We did above the ground gardens. We did over 60 of them, and we gave them out to the elders, the handicapped, and to the working poor. And we did pallet gardens, about 45 of them, and we gave them out to families reservation wide. And yes, we figured out we can do it. We can do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited.
And how it happened was somebody donated us a whole box of seeds.
No.
And then some people donated us used pallets, old pallets, and wood, and we took them apart and we put the seeds in, the kids grown it. Not only are they, kids, they're not just taking, but they're giving. So when they harvest and they come out here every day, they got a place to chill out and get a little bit of air conditioning. They go out and harvest. They put them in their bags. They go through their whole process, and then they deliver the food, whether it's to elders or families. And to see them be the ones giving is I can't even put that into words. I mean, they're seeing their face.
They're passing their blessings forward.
Yep. So we're moving. There's so much, Marty, that we see in 5 years.
We're looking at a dormitory.
Oh, yep.
We're looking at a dormitory. We have 2 trailer houses that were donated to us.
Yep.
And there's 7 rooms in each one that need to be fixed up. And one of our bigger project is to set them on the ground, and we'll have 14 rooms for our high school kids
Yeah.
that
Wonderful.
want to graduate, that want to do better, they want to be a part of making their own tomorrow better.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So we're able to, and they can go to school anywhere on the res and still come back here and have their own room, their own key
Yeah.
to
Wow.
teach them. You're moving into that young adulthood, and we're going to guide you through that.
Yes.
All right, so here's my last question for today.
Okay.
What can people who are listening to this interview, what can they do to support the Bear Project?
I hate those questions because it always comes down to funding.
Well, you know what? That's okay, because
and it does. It comes down to funding, Marty. But also with that funding, we have a place for people to come and stay and see and be a part of the work that we do. So that is so it's kind of like hand in hand. Come donate, but come be a part of it. And it isn't, it's not like, so give me 10,000s and thousands and thousands. Yeah, that would be great. But anything works because we need a TV, $80 TV, or we need help with a conference table, or we're trying to buy a stove, or a skillet sets. Some people aren't comfortable with giving money. But if you're not giving money, then just ask us and we can tell you what we are looking towards or what we're working for. You can buy skillets and send them to us if you want to, so, but it comes down to funding and resources and whatnot. And, we're always getting chewed out because we finally have a part-time project manager, but we've never had positions. All of our money has always gone to direct services to kids. All of our time has been volunteer because we still have regular jobs so that we can still do this job.
And we're looking at
Yep.
raising money so we can hire more people for the
Yep.
Bear program. A subject that I always have to touch on is that Bear, you've heard all these wonderful things about Bear, but we're still fighting suicide.
Mhm.
And it's and it's tough. Our ideations are up there, and we're still bearing our young people.
Yep.
So Bear is out there we're boots on the ground. We're out there looking for the kids, and we're out there finding them. We're out there finding families that haven't had time to grieve because they've lost so many to
Mhm.
suicide. So that also is, we need funds for that too,
Mhm.
and
one of the things that we want to do is we look at even alcohol and drugs as suicide, Marty, because that's the way a lot of our kids live. And one of our goals with the Bear program is being able to be in a position to allow kids to be kids, not in survival mode, not wondering how they're going to eat, where they're going to sleep, and not having to be an adult before they are an adult. And so that has been a struggle. Is we want them to be able to just be kids, come and be able to fly a kite, and enjoy the simple things of being a kid, because they miss out on that so much because they have to grow up so quickly.
Well, I can tell you again. I'm a big booster of the Bear Project, because I know, first off, you two just are giving your heart and soul to it, and I also know that there's nothing wrong in asking for money, because the fact is that you put the money to great use, to the betterment of the kids and the community, and I am really proud to say that I've met you two and know you two, and I'm working with you two because you're doing such fantastic work. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
thank you, Marty.
And thank you for having us, because you and your Rotary Club and John, you all have been
A blessing
a
to us.
blessing to us. So we're blessed to be a part of your guys' lives.
I can't say it. I think it's a good way to end. Thanks again.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Marty.